Do you think Rio is in danger in Beyond the Spider-Verse? A lot of people seem to assume she will be safe, and personally I don't think she will die either, but there is a strong case that the film quietly sets her up as the one who might face the biggest threat, even more than Jefferson. On the surface, the movie makes it look like Jefferson's the one in danger. Miles is warned that if he interferes with his father's death, he could break the multiverse, so the story trains us to expect that loss to happen. That's the obvious setup, but the way Rio is written and used in the film actually makes her just as central, and maybe even more emotionally exposed. Throughout Across the Spider-Verse, Rio's key scenes are almost always about giving Miles strength. She's the one who balances Jefferson's strictness with warmth and encouragement. When Jefferson is hard on Miles, Rio is the one who softens the moment, but she also isn't afraid to be firm when he needs it. She doesn't just cheer him on, she gives him the kind of guidance that shapes who he becomes. When she notices how much Gwen matters to Miles and chooses to let him go after her, she tells him that no matter where life takes him, he should never let anyone decide whether he belongs or not.
Wherever you go from here, you have to promise to take care of that little boy for me. Make sure he never forgets where he came from. And he never doubts that he is loved. And he never lets anyone at those big fancy places he's gonna be in tell him that he doesn't belong there.
That line is both a parenting moment and a quiet prediction of what will happen later with the Spider Society. When Miguel and the others tell Miles he doesn't fit into their rigid rules, Rio's earlier words are the emotional backbone that keeps him from giving in.
You don't belong here. You never did.
And he never lets anyone at those big fancy places he's gonna be in tell him that he doesn't belong there.
Her speech is less about comfort and more about giving him the tools to resist pressure. Rio's role in the plot is also surprisingly decisive. If she hadn't allowed Miles to follow Gwen, none of the major events in the movie would unfold the same way. The whole Spider Society setup, the conflict with Miguel, and the emotional fallout with Gwen all hinge on that choice.
You know how you grounded him?
Mm-hmm.
I ungrounded him.
You what?
A little.
Her decision isn't just a background moment, it's the trigger that pushes Miles into the larger multiverse story. Miles is someone who refuses to accept that he has to choose between the people he loves and the path he wants to follow. The film makes it clear that he wants to have his cake and eat it too, a phrase that's basically about wanting two things he deeply cares about without giving up either.
Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Unless you bake 2 cakes.
In the Spider-Verse logic, that means he wants to save his father and keep his universe intact, even though Miguel and the Spider Society insist that's impossible. Miguel pushes him to choose, either accept the canon event, his father's death, and preserve the multiverse, or risk everything by trying to change fate. Miles, being the kind of person who believes he can write his own story, refuses to pick one side and tries to find a way to do both. Since the Spider-Verse films are built on subverting expectations, it wouldn't be surprising if the biggest threat isn't exactly the one we're being handed. The setup is that Jefferson's death is the canon event Miles can't change, but the storytelling itself keeps hinting that the real danger might shift to someone else, his mother, Gwen, Peter B., or even Miles himself. On the emotional side, Miles is also tangled up with Gwen in a very complicated way. He loves her deeply, but she betrayed him in a way that shattered his trust. Even so, he still cares about her, and that creates a huge internal conflict. He can't fully let her go, but he also can't pretend the betrayal didn't happen. Even before the betrayal, there was already a big obstacle, the idea that in every other universe when Gwen falls for Spider-Man something tragic happens.
It's the first time for everything, right?
For Gwen to rebuild his trust, she'll have to do a lot more than say sorry. She'll have to prove that she's willing to fight for him in the same way he's fighting for his family. All of this piles onto Miles' shoulders, his father's looming death, the betrayal of Gwen, the fear of Gwen's fate, and the pressure of protecting the multiverse. Rio is the one person who has always been his emotional anchor, and given her role in the story she's naturally going to get more focus going forward. The film doesn't spell it out, but the way it highlights her encouragement and the way her choices directly affect the plot makes it feel like she could be the one who ends up in real danger. Right now, it's still unclear exactly who will be put in the most peril. It could be Gwen, it could be his father, it could be Miles himself, or it could be his mom. What makes the most sense for the story, though, is that at least one of these characters has to face a serious threat, so there's real tension and emotional stakes. The three most likely options are Gwen, his mother, or his father, because they're the people whose survival would force Miles into the hardest choices, and that's exactly the kind of conflict the Spider-Verse franchise loves to build its story around.